just want to make this video right now because I'm in it. I'm experiencing it right now. This is actually something that I feel is very important to hit on. This is something I talk about with my clients, my competitors, fellow competitors, anybody. I am 6 days after a competition and I'm reverse dieting. Some of y'all don't know what that means, so I'll briefly explain it. Basically, it's the same processes that you do to lose body fat and sustain muscle backwards. So I know most preps or most people who do a competition go through a reduction in calories, possibly macros, increase in cardio, whatever, all of that. You have to baby step backwards to get out of it. You can't just stop cold turkey and expect your body not to react. I actually don't like the idea when people say like, oh, I want to do a competition, and then they switch gears, they completely overhaul their lifestyle, they do the competition, and then they're like, oh, I'm done, now I can do whatever I want, I can go back to eating. And it's like, why did you do that in the first place? That's not what the competition is for. Trust me, I've done this 15 years and I've made a lot of mistakes. By the way, if you hear this bird, I just moved into a new house and there's a bird that lives in my window, so that's him. Anyway, so yeah, I've done this for a long time and I've messed up so badly after shows where I gained like 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and it's frustrating because I bust my ass to get to a certain leanness and keep that muscle. And it's just gone, like, very, very quickly, surprisingly quickly. And now that I'm 30, that shit happens a lot faster than when I was, 21, with the metabolism of I was on fire. I could eat anything. But not so much now. So it comes back a lot faster. But there's a lot of reasons why, too. Like, when you diet, your entire, your body adapts. And it functions on a certain expectancy of what you're doing, especially like during prep when everything's very consistent. You're probably eating the same exact foods every day about the same time. Your workout load is probably the same, so you're depleting glycogen at a very specific rate. Everything is very calculated and measured. And so to go from something that's very calculated and measured and then just to do whatever, go even just to unmeasure, that can kind of pose some issues because you don't actually know, you're not tracking what your caloric intake versus your expenditure is. But also hormonal adaptations occur whenever you're dieting also, so your body can be very sensitive, especially when it comes to insulin. I've learned the hard way that it's in my head, I'm like, I need those carbs for my workout or to fill out or whatever, and I realize now how stupid that was, because usually when I'm in such a depleted state, it actually doesn't take that much much bit high of a carb intake for my body, because I'm so sensitive to carbs, especially if I'm doing something low carb or ketogenic, or if I'm just that depleted. It doesn't take a lot of carbs for my body to react. For me, the type of carbs matter. I feel like absolute shit if I go out and eat something sugary, especially sugary and fatty. So I actually haven't had a cheat in a long time, except for about 3 weeks ago after my bodybuilding show, and then just last weekend I had a cheat. And at first I was like, why did I do that? Like, I was beating myself up over it, but it's a couple of days, and I actually got back on track on my diet Monday. And it's fine. It's fine now because I went back to what I was doing. But the same thing with your workouts, like the intensity at which you were working out, the amount of cardio, all of those things. Basically, you can't just stop what you're doing abruptly and not expect your body to react very strongly to that. And that's the physiological part. The psychological part is almost worse somehow, because you do that thing, you're like, I deserve this meal, I deserve to cheat. And then you cheat, and then it's really hard to stop once you start. I know you all have been here. So for example, I'll use my post show. I had some sushi right after finals, low fat sushi at least, But then I knew I was going to a wedding, and a friend and I shared several cupcakes and cookies, and they were worth it. But then the next day, I was like, oh, if I have a piece of pizza, it's fine. I'm still depleted. I need it. I deserve it. And then I stopped myself right there because I was like, Autumn, that's bullshit. You don't need that pizza. The sad part is I'm doing macros, and I could probably have worked that pizza in, but my mind was like, get rid of all the cravings, and it's like somehow I justified this food, but I stopped myself because I've been there before, and now I try not to use food as an I deserve it kind of a thing. What I deserve is the results of my hard work, and food really to me isn't hard work anymore. I've had to change my mindset a lot. But in terms of reverse dieting, what makes it hard is, especially when you're done with your season, you feel like you have a lot of time. Like you feel like, oh, I'm going into an off season. It's time, bulking season. Everybody loves their little, chips and queso bulking season post leg workout, whatever. But that's not what I believe. So even if you don't have an immediate show, just in terms of progress, and it doesn't have to be a competition, it could be a vacation or a photo shoot, or simply just living the lifestyle, not basing it around an event. You can take a 5-year off season, and that's really a slippery slope if you don't ease back from a competition prep into that. So I always like to set up short-term goals for myself to keep myself motivated. So in 2 weeks, I have a whole weekend of photo shoots. A month after that, I'm going to be expediting one of our bodybuilding shows. So I have reasons to stay pretty close to where I should be. Right now, I'm actually very motivated. Coming off of this show, I have plans that I'm not going to talk about right here. But it's going to be the rest of the year. I get to take the rest of the year to improve, not to fall off. And I don't really get to relax. I find other ways to relax. So I actually still have to do my 2 hours of cardio right now. I still had to go back to my diet. My coach did give me more carbs, which was nice. But it'll probably stay pretty even keel for a while until my body settles. Now the intensity of my lifts are going to pick up because I have to put that fuel to use if we're going to be upping carbs. Metabolically, maybe from the cheat meal or maybe just being so depleted, it's possible that my body can tolerate that and not hurt it. But if I had done that for several weeks or weekends in a row of cheat meals or drastically increasing my fats or carbs, it would be a sloppy mess, and that's really hard to get out of. And so even psychologically, if you're like, oh, I've got plenty of time, that time frame is very distorted because you think like, oh, I've got 6 months before I have to do anything. And then all of a sudden it's 6 weeks and you didn't make progress. If you gained any 5 pounds, it was probably 1 pound of muscle and 4 pounds of fat, which on a smaller frame that matters. And then right about that time you start to panic, and then you're like, oh, I gotta up my cardio, or I gotta do, fix it. And what I'm learning as I get older and as I compete more is to just not create anything to fix. My easiest preps have been where I've stayed in control. Not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. And yeah, I like my beer once in a while. I like to sleep in and not go to the gym. And I like to half-ass my workouts occasionally. Not right now though. But my problem in the past has been putting on fat very quickly because of this mindset. And then I notice that it's even harder to get fat off of specific areas on my body the next time I want to prep, especially in a short window. Your body's very smart, and you're not going to outsmart it. And it likes to store. That's just what it wants to do. And so for me, it goes right in that little part under the butt crease, like the cheeks, like that 2 inches. It's just like this fat pocket, and it's like it just wants to see how much fat it can shove in there from the food I eat. And that's the last thing it will let go of. And it's very frustrating because then I feel like I bust my ass the next prep. And it's just this vicious cycle where it doesn't come off as easily. So my goal with myself is to properly reverse diet for one of the few times in my life. Luckily, I've got a coach I've got to stay accountable with. I sent my pictures on Tuesday. They weren't awesome, but they weren't awful either. And so I have to send my pictures in tomorrow. And that's how I stay on course in that direction. But I'm still working some foods in of cravings that I want. But even with my clients, I try to remind them, like, this shouldn't be seen as like an event and then it's over, or an off and on switch. This whole thing, if you're competing, is actually a spectrum. And I won't take athletes on, I won't take clients on if they can't prove to me that they are aware of the spectrum, meaning they have to be aware of some sort of nutrition, and they have to be somehow tracking their workouts. Even if they don't write it down, they should at least be able to tell me how many times they went to the gym, what their split is, what their cardio is like, if it's high intensity, moderate intensity, how many days a week, whatever. They should be able to tell me those things before I'll even start with them. And then all we do, I mean, it's the same whether you're in prep or you're in improvement season or whatever you want to call it. It's the same actions. It's just at what degree are you taking these actions, and for how long, and how extreme are these. And so improvement season, your extremes might be your lifts are very, very heavy. Maybe your macro, your replenishment is very high. Those are the extremes. Whereas when you diet, you might deplete some of those macros. Your strength might drop a little, and your cardio may increase, or your intensity may increase, or whatever it is for your body. It's different for everybody. And by the end, yeah, you're really shredded and you're lean, but you're probably not going to be as strong, or in terms of strength, setting PRs or anything at that point. So it's just falling on one end of the spectrum or the other all the time. Here comes my cat. Here comes my cat. Hello. That's Pickles back there. Anyway, yeah, this is long. Just make sure that when you get off stage that you have a plan, even if it's just getting back to something you know. If you don't know what to do, then just get back on your diet. It's not going to kill you to diet a week or two longer until you figure out what to do. But I think just coming back to a base, to where you're confident and that you can implement that and that you can make a routine until your mind can settle post-show. I think that's the most helpful advice I can give somebody. But don't cheat yourself. Don't cheat yourself in the long run by these short-term fixes that you think you need when you actually have more control than you think. You're setting yourself up for a much better competition experience, even if you never compete again. But ending this show with a reverse diet, you'll be a lot more proud of yourself. You'll be a lot more satisfied than the way that I've felt so many times where I end a season and I'm like, well, that ended quickly. And now my body fat's back up to 20% and I don't feel good, I don't look good, and I'm not confident. And so I'll use that example to hopefully help you guys.